All right, let's dive right in. Today we're talking about something that honestly sounds like it was ripped from the pages of a sci-fi novel. We're talking about a single injection that might not just slow down aging, but could actually throw it in reverse. So how could this so-called magic injection change, well, everything?
Just think about it for a second. What if we could do more than just manage getting older? What if we could actually turn back the clock on our own bodies? It's the age-old dream, right? The fountain of youth. But what was once fantasy might be getting closer to reality than we ever thought possible.
Okay, so take a look at this. The difference here is just staggering. On the left, you've got these old lab mice. They're frail, their organs are failing, they're not as sharp. But then on the right, after just one injection, it's a total transformation. Their organ function is back, they're suddenly better at solving mazes, and they have way more stamina. It's like someone found a biological reset button.
So you're probably asking, who's the person behind this incredible discovery? To really get what's going on, we first need to meet the scientist at the very center of this whole story. And yeah, they're a little bit controversial. In some science circles, they call this researcher the mouse doctor, and for good reason. For years, their work has been way out on the fringes of gerontology. That's a study of aging. See, while most scientists were focused on slowing aging down, the mouse doctor had a much crazier, much more radical goal: to reverse it completely.
And you know, this didn't just happen overnight. Not even close. This timeline shows a journey that took a decade. It all started with a really bold idea back in 2016. That was followed by years of hard work, and as you can see, some big failures around 2020. But then, in 2024, bam! The breakthrough. And when it was published, it immediately kicked off a massive debate.
This all sounds absolutely amazing, but how in the world does it actually work? What's happening inside the body? Let's peel back the layers and get into the nitty-gritty of how this thing actually does what it does.
When you boil it all down, the whole thing happens in three main steps. First, the tech is smart enough to find and target the cells that have been damaged by age. Second, it delivers this very specific, specially designed cocktail of proteins. And third, and this is the magic part, those proteins tell the cell to reset its internal clock, to basically go back to being young again.
And the name for this whole process, the really important term here, is cellular reprogramming. This isn't just about fixing damage. It's about taking a developed adult cell, say a 50-year-old skin cell, and telling it to revert all the way back to a state like it was in an embryo. From there, it can grow up all over again, fresh and without all that accumulated damage.
But you know what they say, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. And when these findings came out, it didn't end the story. Oh no, it kicked off an absolute firestorm of debate in the scientific community.
I mean, on the one hand, you have data that's pretty hard to argue with. The study found a 75% reduction in the key markers of aging in these mice. That is a massive number. It strongly suggests that something very, very real is happening here.
But then, you have the voice of skepticism stepping in, and it's a loud one. This quote from a top journal really hits the nail on the head. The history of science is just full of amazing cures that worked perfectly in mice and then failed completely in people. We're just not the same biologically.
So let's just lay it all out. The good versus the bad. The promise is incredible. A new era of medicine, maybe even reversing things like dementia. But the problems are huge and, frankly, pretty scary. Forcing cells to get young again could lead to uncontrolled growth, cancer. We have no idea what the long-term effects are. And we're back to that giant gap between mouse and human biology.
So, what's the verdict? Is this really the future? Well, before we can even get close to an answer, we have to look at the immense, difficult journey from these successful mouse experiments to anything that could ever be used on a person.
And I mean, the list of obstacles here is just massive. You have to prove it's safe over many, many years. You have to get the same results in bigger animals like primates. You have to get through an ethical minefield. Oh, and you need to find billions with a B in funding, all while trying to figure out what could go wrong.
And if you think that sounds like a lot, just look at this timeline. The mouse studies, a couple of years. Then you move to primates. That's another 5 to 7 years, easy. And from there, to get through all the phases of human clinical trials, we're talking a decade minimum. So yeah, this is a very, very long road.
Which brings us to the final, huge question. Is this the ultimate medical breakthrough of our lifetime? A real cure for aging itself? Or is this science going a step too far, messing with our basic biology in ways we can't possibly predict or control? For right now, the only thing we know for sure is that this conversation is just getting started.